I know when we were kids at our age, like in the late 90s, early 2000s, there was a term or like a phrase that we used a lot when we were little. Like if I were to get hurt, like scratch my elbow, my knee, crying about it, like a friend of mine would come and be like, "Hey, dude, don't worry about it. Like chicks dig scars." And I'd be like, "Oh, and I just let this bleed." So, I grew up with that, like the mentality they gotta be bad, girls like bad boys. So I got my first scar when I was 4 years old. Also, my first traumatic memory. My first scar, chick magnet, whatever you want to call it. So it was at my grandma's house. My grandma, she's a hoarder. Like she doesn't say she is, but she's a hoarder. Like she's one of those ladies that will like watch infomercials and will order everything that she sees. So like I'll walk in her house and be like, "Grandma, what the heck is a Bowflex doing in the middle of the living room?" And she's like, "Oh, I want to get in shape." I'm like, "Grandma, I'm sorry to break this to you, but like you're 80 years old. There's not much you can do at that age." So my grandfather, he built a room attached to the back of her house, just so all that stuff, like a storage room for her, so I wouldn't like clog up the regular house where we live. And so there's like a really long sofa in the middle of the room, and like 2 coffee tables at each end. And I was in there, my dad and my cousin were in the living room, they were watching the Cowboys game. So I wasn't into football when I was little. And so I'm jumping from end to end of the couch, where like you rest your elbows at the end of the closet. And I was jumping from end to end with my eyes closed for some reason. So I jump, and I'm jumping, and then for some reason my legs are just like, "Hey, we're gonna give you like a 15-inch vertical just this one time." So I jump, and like I smash my face like on the edge of the coffee table, and I'm just like, "Oh." Like right on like the floor. Like on the floor I stay there. And like as a kid you have like that 5-second delay where you don't register pain. So it's just like like it's a building, like you cry. And so I'm crying and like I think I'm dying because like I'm on the floor, there's just like blood like just pooling around, just like bleeding from my face. So I was like I was freaking out, I was crying. And I was like having like that kid that cried, like I was like, "Dad, Dad, 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 Dad," like that. And so he's watching the Cowboy game, so he obviously is not hearing what I'm saying because he's watching the Cowboy game. He's a grown man. He's watching television on the game, and my cousin, he's like, "Hey Art, you want to go check on your son?" And my dad, I just hear, he just goes, "You alright?" like that, and I'm crying. And I just keep on crying, and he's like, "Hey, we should go check on him." So my dad, like, he gets up and he walks over and he sees me, like, his eyes get huge, and like picks me up, and and I'm crying. So he puts me in the car. My cousin's driving, and I'm in the back seat with my dad. And it was at nighttime. It was pretty dark already, and so I'm just watching like the lampposts go by in like the mirror or in the window, and it's like an on an acid trip, just like lights going by. Crazy. So I pass out from the loss of blood, of course. And I get there, wake up at the hospital, and I'm on the gurney, and they're pushing me, not fast, obviously I'm dying, but they're like walking me to the room. And I just hear like the doctor like talking to the nurse across, like from the other side of the gurney, and he's just like, "Prep for stitches." So then I just I'm like, "Nope," and just like pass out again. So like I wake up and on the bed. They already feel like I felt right here, and I could like feel the stitches right here, and I was kind of like, it was weird. It was so weird because like I was still like high on like whatever they gave me. So I was like, "What is this?" Like feeling on my face because it was drugs, but. Like, so I'm like feeling around, and I'm just like, and this whole time I had my Power Ranger with me. It was one of the things I picked up from my grandma that she bought for me. Out of all the things, the one thing that she actually bought something that was important. So I'm having him. I've held on to it this whole time, and I look for it's not in my hands, so I'm looking down, like my pad in my pockets, checking the sheets under the bed where I'm at, the floor around me. And my dad's just like reading a magazine next to me, like uninterested in my pain. And like, so I was like, "Dad, that's my Power Ranger." And he like checks his pockets, and he checks under the floor. I don't know. And he goes back to the magazine. And I start crying. I'm like, "Dad, that's my Power Ranger. Grandma got it for me." He's like, "Well, I guess we'll have to buy you a new one." I was like, "No, Dad, I want mine." But, I had to get over it. So we go home, and my mom, I was again, like, playing on the freaking couch. And I hurt myself again. But my mom comes home. My dad's still watching the Cowboy game. My mom comes home, and she, like, freaks out when she sees me. She's like, "Oh, my God, what happened?" And my dad's just like, oh, he did something stupid. So my mom, she looks at me and she's like, oh, she starts crying because mom's very emotional. And she starts crying. She's like, oh, how'd you get hurt? You know, are you feeling okay? And I'm just like, yeah, I'm okay. And then I'm like, yeah, I'm okay. I'm feeling better. And then she's like, oh, where's your Power Ranger? I'm just like, and I started crying again. So now that I think about it, like when I got my first scar, I go to 8th grade year. In 8th grade year, like I was finally starting to stretch out, losing that, baby fat, that little meat you got right here. And so, girls were actually starting to talk to me. And I was excited. So, and at that time I had like long hair, so like it was like the head you were like Steven's hair. It was like that, and it would just like a wave. So like they would always like this one girl, she would just play with it, and then she noticed one day like, like, oh, where'd you get this scar? And I was like, dude, this is the moment. This is the moment. Like you got to say something really cool, like a bullet grazed you, or you got in a fight with somebody, and I was just like, I felt at my grandma's house, and she just like, oh, and like walked away, and I was like, oh. So I lie about things now a lot.